When, O Catalina, did you cease abusing our patience? How long is that madness of yours still to mock us? When is there to be an end to that unbridled audacity of yours, swaggering about as it does now? Do not the nightly guards placed on the Palatine Hill, do not the watches posted throughout the city, does not the alarm of the people and the union of all good men, does not the pronunciation taken of the assembling the Senate in this most defensible place, do not the looks and countenances of this venerable body here have any effect upon you? Do you not feel that your plans are detected? Do you not see that your conspiracy is already arrested and rendered powerless by the knowledge which everyone here possesses of it? What is there that you did last night? What the night before? Where is it that you were? Who was there that you summoned to meet you? What design was there which was adopted by you with which you think that any of us is unacquainted? Shame on the age and on its principles. The Senate is aware of these things. The consul sees them, and yet this man lives. Lives, aye! He comes into the Senate. He takes a part in the public deliberations. He is watching and marking down and checking off for slaughter every individual among us. And we, gallant men that we are, think that we are doing our duty to the Republic if we keep out of the way of his frenzied attacks. You ought, O Catalina, long ago to have been led to execution by command of the consul. That destruction which you have been long plotting against us ought to have already fallen on your own head. What? Did not the most illustrious man, Publius Scipio, the Pontifex Maximus, in his capacity of a private citizen, put to death Tiberius Gracchus, though but slightly undermining the constitution? And shall we, who are the consuls, tolerate Catalina, openly desirous to destroy the whole world with fire and slaughter? For I pass over older instances, such as Caius Servilius Ahala, with his own hand slew Spurius Malleus, when plotting a revolution in the state. There was one such virtue in the Republic, that brave men would repress mischievous citizens with severer chastisement than the most bitter enemy. For we have a resolution of the Senate, a formidable and authoritative decree against you. O Catalina, the wisdom of the Republic is not at fault, nor the dignity of the senatorial body. We alone, I say it openly, we the consuls are waiting in our duty. The Senate once passed a decree that Lucius Opimius, the consul, should take care that the Republic suffered no injury. Not one night elapsed. There was put to death, on some mere suspicion of disaffection, Caius Gracchus, a man whose family had borne the most unblemished reputation for many generations. There was slain Marcus Fulvius, a man of consular rank, and all his children. By a like degree of the Senate, the safety of the Republic was entrusted to Caius Marius and Lucius Valerius, the consuls. Did not the vengeance of the Republic, did not execution overtake Lucius Saturninus, a tribune of the people, and Caius Servilius, the praetor, without the delay of one single day? But we, for those 20 days, have been allowing the edge of the Senate's authority to grow blunt, as it were. For we are in possession of a similar decree of the Senate, but we keep it locked up in its parchment, buried, I may say, in the sheath, and according to that degree you ought, O Catalina, to be put to death this instance. You live, and you live not to lay aside, but to persist in your audacity. I wish, O conscript fathers, to be merciful. I wish not to appear negligent amid such danger to the state. But I do now accuse myself of remissness and culpable inactivity. A camp is pitched in Italy, at the entrance of Etruria, in hostility to the Republic. The number of the enemy increases every day, and yet the general of that camp, the leader of these enemies, we see within the walls. Yes, and even in the Senate, planning every day some internal injury to the Republic. If, O Catalina, I should now order you to be arrested, to be put to death, I should, I suppose, have to fear lest all good men should say that I acted tardily, rather than anyone should affirm that I acted cruelly. But yet this, which ought to have been done long since, I have good reason for doing as yet. I will put you to death, and then, when there shall be not one person possible to be found so wicked, so abandoned, so like yourself, as not to allow that it has been rightly done. As long as one person exists who can dare defend you, yet shall live. But you shall live as you do now, surrounded by many trusty guards, so that you shall not be able to stir one finger against the republic. Many eyes and ears shall observe and watch you, as they have hitherto done, though you shall not perceive them. Do you recollect on the 21st of October I said in the Senate that on a certain day, which was to be the 27th of October, C. Manlius, the satellite and servant of your audacity, would be in arms? Was I mistaken, Catalina, not only in so important, so atrocious, so incredible a fact, but what is much more remarkable, in the very day? I said also in the Senate that you had fixed the massacre of the nobles for the 28th of October, when many chief men of the Senate had left Rome, not so much for the sake of saving themselves as for checking your designs. Can you deny that on the very day you were so hemmed in by guards and my vigilance that you were unable to stir one finger against the republic? When you said that you would be content with the fight of the rest and the slaughter of us who remained? What when you made sure that you would be able to seize Praeneste on the 1st of November by a nocturnal attack? Did you not find that Colony was fortified by my order, by my garrison, by my watchfulness and care? You do nothing, you plan nothing, you think of nothing, which I not only do not hear, but which I do not see and know every particular of. O ye immortal gods, where on earth are we? In what city are we living? What constitution is ours? There are here in our body, O conscript fathers, in this most holy and dignified assembly of the whole world, men who mediate my death, and the death of all of us, and the destruction of this city, and of the whole world. I, the consul, see them. I ask their opinion about the republic, and I do not yet attack even by words those who ought to be put to death by the sword. You were then, O Catalina, at Lecca's that night. You divided Italy into sections. You settled where everyone was to go. You fixed whom you were to leave at Rome, whom you were to take with you. You portioned out the divisions of the city for configuration. You undertook that you yourself would once leave the city, and said that there was then only this to delay you, that I was still alive. 2 Roman knights were found to deliver you from this anxiety, and to promise that very night, before daybreak, to slay me in my bed. All this I knew before your meeting had broken up. I strengthened and fortified my house with a stronger guard. I refused admittance when they came to those whom you sent in the morning to salute me, and of whom I had foretold to many eminent men that they would come at that time. Great thanks are due to the immortal gods and to this very Jupiter Satyr, in whose temple we are, the most ancient protector of this city, that we had already so escaped so foul, so horrible, and so deadly an enemy to the Republic. But the safety of the Commonwealth must not be too often allowed to be risked on one man. As long as you, O Catalina, plotted against me, while I was the consul-elect, I defended myself not with a public guard, but with my own private diligence. When in the next consular comitia, you wished to slay me when I was actually consul, and your competitors also, in the Campus Maritus, I checked your nefarious attempt by the assistance and resources of my own friends, without exciting any disturbances publicly. In short, as often as you have attacked me, I by myself opposed you, and that, too, though I saw that my ruin was connected with great disaster to the Republic. But now you are openly attacking the entire Republic. You are summoning to destruction and devastation the temples of the immortal gods, the house of the city, the lives of all the citizens, in short, all of Italy. Wherefore, since I do not yet venture to do which the best thing, and which belongs to my office and to the discipline of our ancestors, I will do that which is more merciful if we regard its rigor, and more expedient for the state. For I order you to be put to death. The rest of the conspirators will still remain in the Republic. If, as I have long been exhorting you, you depart, your companions, those worthless dregs of the Republic, will be drawn from the city too. What is the matter, Catalina? Do you hesitate to do which I order you, which you were already doing of your own accord? The consul orders an enemy to depart from the city. Do you ask me, are you to go into banishment? I do not order it, but if you consult me, I advise it. What, when lately by the death of your former wife you had made your house empty and ready for a new bridal, did you not add another incredible wickedness to this wickedness? But I pass that over and willingly allow it to be buried in silence. That so horrible a crime may not be seen to have existed in this city, and not have been chastised. I pass over the ruin of your fortune, which you know is hanging over you, against the idea of the very next month. I come to those things which relate not to the infamy of your private vices, not to your domestic difficulties and baseness, but to the welfare of the Republic and to the lives and safety of us all. Can the limit of this life, O Catalina, can the breath of this atmosphere be pleasant to you, when you know that there is not one man of those here present who is ignorant that you, on the last day of the year, when Lepidus and Tullus were consuls, stood in the assembly armed, that you prepared your hand for the slaughter of the consuls and chief men of the state, and that no reason or fear of yours hindered your crime and madness, but the fortune of the Republic. And I say no more of these things, for they are not unknown to everyone. How often have you endeavored to slay me, both as consul-elect and as actual consul? How many shots of yours, so aimed that they seemed impossible to be escaped, have I avoided by some slight stooping aside and some dodging, as it were, of my body? You attempt nothing, you execute nothing, you devise nothing. That call be kept hid from me at the proper time, and yet you do not cease to attempt and contrive. How often already has that dagger of yours been wrested from your hands? How often has it slipped through them by some chance and dropped down? And yet you cannot any longer do without it. And to what scared mysteries it is consecrated and devoted by you I know not, that you think it necessary to plunge it into the body of the consul. On my honor, if my slaves feared me, as all your fellow citizens fear you, I should think I must leave my house. Do you not think you should leave the city? If I saw that I was even undeservedly so suspected and hated by my fellow citizens, I would rather flee from their sight than be gazed at by the hostile eyes of everyone. And do you, who from the consciousness of your wickedness know that the hatred of all men is just and has been long due to you, hesitate to avoid the sight and presence of these men whose minds and senses you have offended? If your parents feared and hated you, and if you could by no means pacify them, you would, I think, depart somewhere out of their sight. Now your country, which is the common parent of all of us, hates and fears you, and has no other opinion of you than that you are mediating and parricide in her case. And will you neither feel awe of her authority, nor defense for her judgment, nor fear of her power? And she, O Catalina, thus pleads with you, and after a manner silently speaks to you. There has now for many years been no crime committed but by you. No atrocity has taken place without you. You alone, unpunished and unquestioned, have murdered the citizens, have harassed and plundered the allies. You alone have had power not only to neglect all laws and investigations, but to overthrow and break through them. Your former actions, though they ought not to have been borne, yet I did bear as well as I could. But now that I should be wholly occupied with fear of you alone, that at every sound I should dread Catalina, that no design seem impossible to be entertained against me which does not proceed from your wickedness. This is no longer endurable. Depart, then, and deliver me from this fear, that, if it be a just one, I may not be destroyed, if an imaginary one, that I may at least cease to fear. If, as I have said, your country were thus to address you, ought she not to obtain her request, even if she were not able to enforce it? What shall I say of your having given yourself into custody? What of your having said, for the sake of avoiding suspicion, that you were willing to dwell in the house of Marcus Lepidus, and that you were received by him, you dared to come to me and beg me to keep you in my house. And when you had received answer from me that I could not possibly be safe in the same house with you, when I considered myself in great danger as long as we were in the same city, you came to Quintus Metellus, the praetor, and being rejected by him, you passed on to your associate, that most excellent man, Marcus Marcellus, who would be, I suppose you thought, the most diligent in guarding you, most sagacious high suspecting you, and most bold in punishing you. But how far can we think that man ought to be from bonds and imprisonment, who has already been judged himself deserving of being given into custody? Since then this is the case, do you hesitate, O Catalina, if you cannot remain here with tranquillity, to depart to some distant land and to trust your life, saved from just and deserved punishment, to flight and solitude? Make a motion, say you, to the Senate, for that is what you demand, and if thus body votes that you ought to go into banishment, You say you will obey. I will not make such a motion. It is contrary to my principles, and yet I will let you see what these men think of you. Begone from the city, O Catalina. Deliver the republic from fear. Depart into banishment. If that is the word you are waiting for, what now, O Catalina? Do you not perceive? Do you not see the silence of these men? They permit it. They say nothing. Why wait you for the authority of their words when you see their wishes in their silences? But had I said the same thing to this excellent young man, Publius Sextius, or to that brave man, Marcus Marcellus, before this time the Senate would deservedly have laid violent hands upon me, consul though I be, in this very temple. But to you, Catalina, while they are quiet, they approve. While they permit me to speak, they vote. While they are silent, they are loud and eloquent. And not they alone whose authority forsooth is dear to you, though their lives are unimportant, but the Roman knights too, those most honorable and excellent men and other virtuous citizens who are now surrounding the Senate, whose numbers you could see, whose desires you could know, and whose voices you a few minutes ago could hear. Yes, whose very hands and weapons I have for some time been scarcely able to keep from you. But those, too, I will easily bring to attend you to the gates, if you leave these places you have been long desiring to lay waste. And yet, why am I speaking? That anything may change your purpose, that you may ever amend your life, that you may meditate flight or think of voluntary banishment. I wish the gods may give you such a mind, though I see, if alarmed at my words you bring your mind to go into banishment, what a storm of unpopularity hangs over me, if not at present, while the memory of your wickedness is fresh, at all events hereafter. But it is worthwhile to incur that, as long as that is but a private misfortune of my own, and is unconnected with the dangers of the Republic. But we cannot expect that you should be concerned with your own vices, that you should fear the penalties of the laws, or that you should yield to the necessities of the Republic. For you are not, O Catalina, one who either shame can recall from infamy, or fear from danger, or reason from madness. Wherefore, as I have said before, go forth, and if you should make me, your enemy as you call me, unpopular, go straight into banishment. I shall scarcely be able to endure all that will be said if you do so. I shall scarcely be able to support my load of unpopularity if you do go into banishment at the command of the consul. But if you wish to serve my credit and reputation, go forth with your ill-amend band of profligates. Betake yourself to Manilius, rouse up the abandoned citizens, separate yourself from the good ones, wage war against your country, exult in your impious bandity, so that you may not seem to have been driven out by me and gone to strangers, but to have gone invited to your own friends. Though why should I invite you, by whom I know men have been already sent to wait in arms for you at the Forum of Aurelium, who I know has fixed and agreed with Manilius upon a settled day, by whom I know that the silver eagle, which I trusted will be ruinous and fatal to you and to all your friends, and to which there was set up in your house as a shrine, as it were, of your crimes, has been already sent forward. Need I fear that you can long do without which you used to worship when going out to do a murder, and from whose altars you have often transferred your impious hand to the slaughter of citizens? You will go at last, where your unbridled and mad desire has been long hurrying you, and this causes you no grief, but an incredible pleasure. Nature has formed you, desire has trained you, fortune has preserved you for this insanity. Not only did you never desire quiet, but you never even desired any war but a criminal one. You have collected a bawd of profligates and worthless men, abandoned not only by all fortune, but even by hope. Then what happiness will you enjoy? With what delight will you exult, and what pleasure will you revel, when in so numerous a body of friends you neither hear or see one good man? All the toils you have gone through have always pointed to this sort of life. You are lying on the ground not merely to lie and wait to gratify your unclean desires, but even to accomplish crimes. Your vigilance, not only when plotting against the sleep of husbands, but also against the goods of your murdered victims, have all been preparations for this. Now you have an opportunity of displaying your splendid endurance of hunger, of cold, of want of everything, by which in a short time you will find yourself worn out. All this I effected when I procured your rejection from the consulship, that you should be reduced to make attempts on your country as an exile instead of being able to distress it as a consul, and that which had been widely undertaken by you should be called piracy rather than war. But even private men have often in this republic slain mischievous citizens. Is it the laws which have been passed about the punishment of Roman citizens? But in this city, those who have rebelled against the republic have never had the rights of citizens. Do you fear odium with posterity? You are showing fine gratitude to the Roman people which have raised you, a man known only by your actions, of no ancestral renown, through all the degrees of your honor at so early an age to the very highest office, if from fear of unpopularity or of any danger you neglect the safety of your fellow citizens. But if you have a fear of unpopularity, is that arising from the imputation of vigor and boldness, or that arising from of inactivity and indecision most to be feared? When Italy is laid waste by war, when cities are attacked and houses in flames, do you not think that you will be then consumed by a perfect conflagration of hatred? Though there are some men in this body who either do not see what threatens or dissemble what they do see, who have fed the hope of Catalina by mild sentiments and have strengthened the rising conspiracy by not believing it, influenced by those whose authority many, and they not wicked, but only ignorant, if I punished him, would say that I had acted cruelly and tyrannically. But I know that if he arrives at the camp of Manlius, to which he is going, there will be no one so stupid as to not see that there has been a conspiracy, no one so hardened as not to confess it. But if this man were alone put to death, I know that this disease of the Republic would only be checked for a while, not eradicated forever. But if he banishes himself and takes with him all his friends and collects at one point all the ruined men from every quarter, then not only will this full-grown plague of the Republic be extinguished and eradicated, but also the root and seed of all future evils. We have now for a long time, O conscript fathers, lived amongst these dangers and machinations of conspiracy, but somehow or other the ripeness of all wickedness and of this long-standing madness and audacity has come to a head at the time of my consulship. If this man alone is removed from his piratical crew, we may appear, perhaps for a short time relieved of fear and anxiety. But the danger will settle down and lie hid in the veins and bowels of the Republic. As it often happens that men affiliated with a severe disease, when they are tortured with heat and fever, if they drink cold water, seem as if first to be relieved, but afterwards stiffer more and more severely. So this disease, which is in the Republic, if relieved by punishment of this man, will only get worse and worse, as the rest will still be alive. Wherefore, O conscript fathers, let the worthless be gone. Let them separate themselves from the good. Let them collect in one place. Let them, as I have often said before, be separated from us by a wall. Let them cease to plot against the consul in his own house, to surround the tribunal of the city praetor, to besiege the senate, the house with swords, to prepare brands and torches to burn the city. Let it, in short, be written on the brow of every citizen what are his sentiments about the Republic. I promise you this, O conscript fathers, that there shall be no such vigilance in us the consuls, much authority in you, so much virtue in the Roman knights, so much unanimity in all good men, that you shall see everything made plain and manifest by the departure of Catalina, everything checked and punished. With these omens, O Catalina, be gone to your impious and nefarious war, to the great safety of the Republic, to your own misfortune and injury, and to the destruction of those who have joined themselves to you in every wickedness and atrocity. Then do you, O Jupiter, who were consecrated by Romulus with the same auspices as this city, whom we rightly call the stay of this city and empire, repel this man and his companions from your altars and from the other temples, from the houses and walls of the city, from the lives and fortunes of all citizens, and overwhelm all enemies of good men, the foes of the Republic, the robbers of Italy, men bound together by a treaty, an infamous alliance of crimes, dead and alive, with eternal punishments.